Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it, bro. I'm here with Maurice the Hulk Jackson. This is full disclaimer, a long time friend of mine. And I appreciate you for taking a few minutes out of your day to do this with me. First, I know you've been busy, been super busy. I want to bring up mjrise.org, which is the organization that you just recently started. Could you tell me a little bit about that?
All right, first off, man, thanks for having me.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit about the Jackson Rise Foundation, man. See, I started the program coming from, the background that I come from. We're similar background. I mean, you have similarities.
Mm-hmm.
And I see a lot of people, they talk about, the problems we have in their communities and things and such, but no one is really stepping up to try to do anything about it. Jackson Rise Foundation, I formed, I use my platform as I'm already out here in the way as to be able to sponge off to the community and use it and to promote positivity. I want to basically Okay, I'm sorry. I smoked too. I had too many edibles. All right. Anyway, so M. Jackson Rise Foundation, man, is a program where I'm working with trouble in the youth kids. The idea is to be able to get these kids mentorship, trades, skill set, guidance, and also at the same time be able to shed a light on these individuals where most of them are living in neglected, abandoned, households or broken, families and things as such as that. And when you're dealing with these type of kids and stuff like that, it's not, they say it take a community and a village, but over time we see the community and village have left and abandoned these kids. And so for me with M. Jackson Rise Foundation, not my idea, what we focus on. We focus on getting these kids. But first we find out, what these kids' hobbies and stuff like that is, or what they love to do and stuff. And we try to set them up in a direction similar to where they goes, or what they want, or what they love, or their passions. And of course, we all know over time, sometimes things change. But for the most part, we have a lot of mentors that's in their arena of what they're looking forward to being able to, getting into. So say, for example, you want to be a chef or something like that. Well, I'm working with Chef Mark. Chef Mark was on Hell's Kitchen. Chef Mark is a part of the program. He'll be taking kids up under them, showing them all the tricks of the trades to being a chef. There's that. And anything could come of this. They can start their own restaurant, their own business, catering. They can also take this to another level where they can even join the kids show anyway. They got kids chef shows. You want to be a fighter. I know all the fighters, so I'll mentor them up with like a fighter or stuff like that. They'll learn expertise. They'll learn discipline. They'll learn skill sets. And at the same time, who knows? They could join tournaments, jiu-jitsu tournaments, wrestling tournaments, amateur boxing. But meanwhile, as they get older, if they decide to take this and run with it, then they have a head start already being in the gym. And everybody knows why I train at Albuquerque, New Mexico. It's like the #1 MMA gym in the world. So to be able to take these kids and put them around this, not only it's more of a safe environment for them in a way, because you don't know what a lot of these kids are going through a lot at home that we clearly people don't understand. Everything from domestics or maybe a bad separation with family members or, beings or abuse, such and stuff like that. So what we do is we give them an outlet. We set them off that way. We find them a mentor. They learn discipline. They learn skill sets. They learn hobby. They have hobbies and activities and stuff like that. But more than anything, they have people who legitimately care about them, that legitimately want the best for each individual, each kid. So this M. Jackson Rise Foundation, is something I plan on taking from state to state, not necessarily just a New Mexico thing, but from state to state, because there's broken kids and broken teens everywhere throughout, this country right now and during these times. So I figure I could use my platform for more than just fighting, but more of setting, giving these kids something productive and constructive to do. Meanwhile, like I said, you see on the news every time you turn up your alarm going off or somebody coming up missing or crazy stuff. this program also sheds lights on this kids where everybody know where he's at usually at all times. You have a mentor you can call whenever you want, talk to, and for the most part, we start with making changes there and seeing what we can get out of it.
Okay, so you based out of Albuquerque, more specifically, Mexico, Albuquerque, I should say, Albuquerque. But anyway, what's the age ranges you typically work with?
Right now, age range is starting between I want to say 9 to 22. So,
Okay,
because
9 to
most
22.
most programs would say to 18, but I would say at the age of 22, 21, 22, 23, you're not clearly set, in
You're
your
not fully
direction.
grown.
Yeah, you're not fully there, so it might take you a few more years to figure or learn the curves and stuff like that. So, I decided to 22, around 2020, 22 would pretty much be,
The
fair.
cutoff. And that's mjrise.org. And you guys just did something recently. You had like a chess tournament situation, right?
Oh no, so the chess tournament will be October. So we're gonna do it.
Oh, that's in
I
October.
was
Okay.
gonna do it in August. I was planning on doing it August 22nd, but I
Mm-hmm.
pushed it back to October because we have a big thing with the community coming up out here. What's called the Balloon
Uh-huh.
Fiesta, and that's people come from all over the globe to come to that. And I
Okay.
pushed it back because I figured that maybe I can do it a week before that. I can hit the crowd that's coming in and introduce them to the Jackson Rise Foundation. Remember, it's for a good purpose. And at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, I do plan on taking this state to state. Just like how you
Right.
got similar to the Boys and Girls Club, but the difference is this would be more focused one-on-one individually with these students and the kids and stuff like that. So
Okay.
I pushed it back. So October,
Awesome.
first week of October.
Right. And again, they can find that at mjrise.org. And you also have a food service that you just started too, didn't you?
Oh yeah. Catering, M&J's Catering. So it's a little
M&J's
taste of
Catering.
Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah, man, little taste of Chicago, man. See, out here they don't have really culture foods like that. It is like pretty
Mm-hmm.
bland. So I just figured I
Okay.
can, I can throw a little bit of mix in there. But
Yeah,
just
you're the
bought
grill master.
trying, man. I'm trying, man. I can't quite say it yet. I am very good. I'm very good, but I can't call myself grill master till I start winning some, joining competitions or
Awards.
something. Who knows? But
Yeah, and see,
nah,
that's a good thing because you're in a place where you're not seeing that type of cuisine on a regular basis. So it's a perfect opportunity to introduce a little bit of back home to folks. You know what I mean?
yeah, exactly. They only know
Mhm.
what I say about, my hometown. A lot of
Right.
people, yeah, it's
Pretty
a
much.
culture
Okay.
shock to them.
Well, I want to take a few minutes because you have an interesting background. We both come from a similar background, but you have a very interesting background. I just want to take a few minutes to get into, where you were born, where you grew up.
Man, of course, grew up South Side Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Let me see. South Side Chicago, of course. I have an autobiography where I talk about a breakdown about my life and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you guys a little input on it right now. Let me see. I was adopted at a late age.
Mm-hmm.
My mother Carlita. Went through audio
Mm-hmm.
homes, foster homes here, there. I guess my life, I could say honestly, started making a change when I met my mother Carlita. So when I met my mother, that's when I could say, because she focused more, and that's another reason what drove me to start M. Jackson Rise Foundation, because you're supposed to pay it forward. And I
Right.
feel like some of the things that she's taught me, I can only imagine how many other kids out there that can be saved if they had someone who cared enough about them to pretty much, step off their own high horse and basically be able to help and contribute. And sometimes all kids need is someone to just care. That's it. People think kids need to lavish the money, all this crazy. Sometimes they just need someone to legitimately care about them, and the rest to take care of itself sometimes, So there's a lot of people don't know which way to walk. They just walking in circles, but it's on us as the older crowd, the OGs you want to call it or whatever, to be able to come back and show them direction, guide them somewhere, because like I said, a lot of this stuff happens because people are lost out here and they don't have an idea. They're not aware, and if they're not aware, and how they gonna know what decisions or when they're in danger or certain things and stuff like that. So, you know, being in a broken household made and knowing what it's like to be outside of a broken household made me say to myself, this is needed. You know, this is very much more needed, you know, because there's a lot, like how many times have you seen a kid that you could tell that he had no guidance at home, no help, no, in fact, he's outside playing all day with no parents and none of that stuff throughout the whole day, and no, you know, he's too young, and you look at yourself and you say to yourself, like, I wouldn't let my kid be out here, especially in these streets, you know, so you
Yeah.
would think that, you know, and so
Mhm.
I want to go back to that. And so with the team that we have, I want to go back to basically being able to have this team around them and everybody being able to keep eyes and keep, you know, being
Do
able
a
to see
community
what's back.
situation.
Yeah,
Right,
community. Let's
right,
bring
right.
it back. Let's bring it back.
Right. So now when you got with your mom Carlita, that's when you got introduced to amateur wrestling?
Oh, when I got with my mother, Carlita, so she put, it's funny story.
Mhm.
She told me, I'm gonna put you in wrestling, and I said, I'm not doing no wrestling. You know, I thought it was guys in speedos and
Yeah.
WWE stuff. So I'm like, I'm not doing that shit. You know, excuse my language. My bad.
Right.
I'm like,
Right,
yeah,
right, yeah.
I'm not doing no, you know. So I kind of like was rebellion towards it and stuff like that. And she was like, well, I'm just gonna drop you off. You let those kids beat you up all you want to. I ain't letting no dudes in no speedos beat me up. I ain't wear that's fake anyway. I
Yeah.
thought it was fake. I didn't understand wrestling, the singlet, the college style wrestling. I didn't understand it, but I got hooked when she did. You know, I got hooked. I
Mhm.
started off with the Harvey Twisters. You know,
Yeah.
every,
Yep.
you know, people might not know much about the Harvey Twisters, but they're legendary. They all over the globe. We got some out here at the gym. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So the Harvey
Mhm.
Twisters are legendary all over the globe, man. The most state champs come from out of there. The most national champs come out of there. The most Olympians come from out of there. The most four-time
Mhm.
state champs come from the Harvey Twisters. The most,
Yeah.
so it's history there, and I'm glad that I was able to be a part of it.
Yeah, you made a lot of lifelong brothers out of that, did you not?
Oh yeah, of course. You already know I have them. You're friends with some of them, but yeah,
Mhm.
Tim, Shannon, I've met a lot of, TJ, Joe, thanks to Coach Quinn, man. He showed us discipline and he showed us a way out. And I think that all of that, the wrestling, being able to be outside of the norms of what I'm used to, being around, I think all of this had a lot to do with me thinking about Jackson Rise Foundation too.
Right. Yeah, most definitely. It's your background that accumulated to that situation. So, but even before that, would you consider yourself a fighter even before you got to wrestling?
I would say so. I was a fighter directly. I would say that not a skill set professional fighter, but
Mhm.
due to my backgrounds and stuff, I'll give you a little part of it. My biological mom, she was on dope a lot. She was on,
Mhm.
it was really bad to the point, and she wasn't always like that, but when we
Uh-huh.
moved, we ended up moving from the south side of Chicago to Evanston, you know,
Uh-huh.
and I still remember the damn address, you know what I'm saying? To this day, it was the longest fucking
Yeah.
walk I've ever took in my
Mhm.
life. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
it was, and being around that told me a lot because, like I said, showed me a lot because, like, the family that we moved with was not a stable family at all. In fact, they were, it was, you don't want to raise a kid in those type of households, And so every day we saw stuff going on, people getting thrown out the window, here, there, mama brains hanging on the floor, all kind of stuff. So everybody in the family getting raped. We've been through, so we've
Right.
seen a lot of stuff. So I think that more than anything, I think that with going through some of that stuff, it had a lot with my decision making with starting M. Jackson Rise Foundation also too,
Uh-huh.
because I understood that I'm not the only one out here that went through those type of broken type of households and stuff like that. And I can imagine the youngins that's out there that don't know where to turn, don't know where to go. But if they had an activity, if they had somewhere, a direction, if they had some people that kind of cared a little bit, you know, and this
Yeah.
is a
Yeah.
totally non-profit. So this is totally
Right.
non-profit. I'm not even on payroll with this. So this is directly
Mhm.
from the bottom of my heart. And this is something because I see that's very much well needed. You can't
Right.
put a price tag on everything, you know what I'm saying? And some
Yeah.
things are non-negotiable. So to me, You know, what
So let me
more?
ask you this, because it seems, and I wanted to ask you from your personal experience, do you find that a lot of fighters come from similar backgrounds, or do you, maybe a little
Some
more on
fighters
the
come from
traumatic side?
different. Some fighters come from different backgrounds. I've sat around and I talked to some fighters and found out their
Mm-hmm.
past is this. That some of them are country, some of them are from financial stable homes, some of them are from broken homes. So they come from all over the globe. And fighters, and for whatever reason that they fight for, you know what I'm saying? I hear all kind of stuff, but most fighters, real fighters, they fight for it's sacred to them. You know what I'm saying? It's you're not just fighting to fight just because it's fun. A lot of people think that most fighters are just doing this for fun, and they don't understand the discipline that it takes. They don't understand the commitment it takes. Sometimes you want to go cheat on your diet, you can't. Sometimes you be hurt and don't want to go practice. You got to. You know what I'm saying? So the hours
Yeah.
and hours and hours. Most people clock in to do an 8-hour shift job. We're doing 10 to 12 hours training on our job. And there's no paycheck
Mm-hmm.
after it until you fight. And even then, they're paid shitty. So the most fighters make more money off their investments, the things they do with
Right,
their
right.
money. You're not gonna fight
Yeah,
every
because
week.
you've done more than just mixed martial arts. You've done football. You've done like we said, wrestling.
I did.
You
I'm a pro
any
boxer.
pro boxer. Yeah, anything with that you got anything combat related is what I say. I noticed that in general.
Yeah, yeah.
What?
I mean, and I
So.
want to get back to that when you said do what I consider myself as always a fighter. I want to get back. I want to
Hmm.
reiterate. I want to touch
Okay.
upon that. So with my
Yeah.
mom's, she were, she had her problems and stuff like that, and
Hmm.
most of the times, she stops coming home at night. Sometimes she would come home like 2, 3 weeks at a time here, there. Sometimes one week she'd be gone. Started off with like a few days, then a week, and sometimes 2 weeks. And so pretty much during that time frame, my grandma Medea, I had a real grandma named Medea, right?
Right.
My
Right. Yeah.
grandma
I know.
Medea, she used to watch us, but she was pretty old and didn't really move too much or do too much. So I stayed, I had to literally start, in order for us to even get food or eat food, I would go into these little grocery stores and I would steal as much as I possibly could out of there. And next thing you know, you got the owners chasing me the whole nine
Yeah.
yards, but people wouldn't understand. They'll look at me and say, oh, that's a baby kid or this or that, not understanding what home is like, And
Yeah.
so a lot of the times my mama would jump inside dumpsters and she would grab like the clothes that was thrown out by the neighbors and send us to school with. Sometimes we have
Hmm.
mismatched shoes, that stuff with holes in it. So of course, when you growing up not as privileged as your next door peers and neighbors and stuff, kids are brutal. So they become that bullying aspect part of it. Where
Yeah.
every day me and my sister Monique and was always dealing with bullying type of stuff. So it got to the point that I would literally be coming from school or whenever I'm out, you'll see it's literally a whole block behind me, chasing me and stuff like that. Cause these kids, and it got to the point that I would have to fight them all. So I would be in the park fighting 20 kids, 10 kids, 15 kids at once. And even got to the point they start bringing their big brothers and fucking uncles out, and start bringing
Yeah.
weapons. So when you ask was I a fighter, I would say I was even back then, because like I was fighting and I did that almost every single day.
Yeah.
But you want to hear something positive I take from that?
What's that?
I looked at that as early training.
Early
You
training.
know why?
Yeah.
For
Hmm.
one, I'm never scared of no man one-on-one. That's one. Two, on top of
Hmm.
this, it's like this. I went from, it's how you look at those type of situations, right? Most people say that's fucked up and that shit, he might say, excuse my language.
Yep.
But I don't consider it because I said to myself, like, I went from fighting in back alleys and parks and stuff like that. Now I'm fighting in arenas, stadiums all over the globe. And not one person
Yeah.
would dare to even reach up or raise a hand at me like that. So in
Yeah.
a way, I think that it strengthened me. I think it was probably God's way of showing me, like, look, man, you got to tap in early at this. So
Yeah.
everywhere I went,
And it was your path.
I hate to say it, but I remember one time I was talking to you and I was like, I
Hmm.
don't understand this, bro. Every fucking job, excuse my language, I was like, every job I
Hmm.
get, I'm either getting laid off or something. It's like, yo, and I'm a good employee. I don't understand.
Hmm.
But That was his way of removing me from where I wasn't supposed to be and putting me in the arena where I was supposed to be at. And the only thing that's ever
Absolutely.
worked out for me is fight.
Yep. It was always in you, and it was made for you, and that was your path, and that's why you find yourself in a position to help people who might be coming up in a similar situation. And
We all gotta fight,
it,
right?
right,
We
absolutely.
all
But
gotta fight.
some people don't have it in them. Some people don't have
Well,
it in
we
them.
don't
Some
have to
people, like they
necessarily
say,
fight physically. I mean, but we fight for
mm-hmm.
things. You fight for your wife. You fight for your
Yep.
kids. You fight for your job. You fight for things. You know what I mean? So the thing is, you can't constantly run. We all fighters, and depend on, we different type of fighters, but we are
Mm-hmm.
all fighters and stuff. And I think that a lot of people, once they realize that, I think that it'll make life that much easier because you can't run. You can't run from a fight. That's in life.
Yeah, man. A lot of people sink. When they say it's sink or swim time, some people sink, and then some folks swim. And you was one of those. I'm a swim person. I'm gonna survive. And that's one thing I've always thought about you is you're a little survivor. No matter what kind of situation you get put in, you're gonna survive. And that's the fight. And sometimes that's what you got to take out of negative situations. The fact
Yeah.
that like a lot of like we was talking a long time ago about our kids and feeling like our kids were not as tough as we were. And that's a good thing. And at the same time, it's a bad thing, because it's like
Yeah.
you would like to think of them as having that in them.
It's a
But
good thing. It's a good thing too, though. The fact that they don't, we did a good job of
they don't
shielding them
have to.
from a lot of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
where they can, they don't have to be around that. I think we
Yep.
came up
Yep.
during one of the roughest,
Definitely one of the roughest places. I can tell you that.
I tell you that much too. Yeah.
Right, yeah. So,
I
but not only that, you started off, and wrestling in general, like you said, you fell in love with it, and it took you all kind of places. It took you to college. You wrestled in college. Like I said, did really well in high school, and you also did some semi-pro football for a while too. What was that like?
You know what? I liked it because when I was in high school, anyone know me in high school, they forced me to play on
Mm-hmm.
the line. I was a nose guard. I was a starting nose
I
guard. I'd be
remember
like 160 pounds. Everybody like 3 something up.
causing
So
havoc.
yeah, but the problem was that it wasn't a passion that I love violence. So I love football,
Yeah,
but it wasn't the position I wanted. I actually
yeah,
wanted everybody to know I wanted to play running back, but that how
yeah,
the
yeah.
coaches and stuff and the politics of football is. But when I went out
Absolutely,
for
and that would have been a
semi-pro,
perfect position.
yep.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I went out to semi-pro, it was just I walked on and was just
Mm-hmm.
and I got picked. You know what I'm saying? I
Mm-hmm.
got picked in there, and so I was able to actually fill that void and be a running back and actually, what I'm saying? I did pretty good. I was averaging 11 yards a carry. You know what I'm saying? The
Yeah,
only problem
yeah,
was there's politics in football. There's a lot of it.
yeah.
With me being 5'8", you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
215, a lot of people were still undersized and bullcrap. And I just got tired of dealing with the politics. That's why I got out of football. It was too
And it
much
wasn't your
politics.
path. It
It
wasn't meant to
wasn't,
be.
fighting was, obviously.
And then that's what you got into right after semi-pro, I believe. You went straight into
Well,
mixed
I
martial
actually
arts.
I was playing semi-pro and I was actually in the amateurs fighting. I took my first amateur fight in the
Oh,
2-0.
while you was in the semi-pro. Okay,
Yeah, while I was
okay.
in the
How'd
semi-pro.
you get started in MMA anyway?
You know what, man? It's fun. It's hilarious, man. So, I thank God for Chris Irwin. So Chris Irwin, he was like a mentor of mine. People might not know Chris. Back then, he was doing managing the fighters, but he also was like, he owned Burlington Pools. Like he installed swimming pools for people like Shaq. There's that, but he got his own pool company along with some other. And I went online when I was thinking about doing, the way I got into it was that me and Tim, Tim,
Yeah.
Tim was a headache for me in the wrestling match, man. Tim used to stomp my ass. He the one that got steel sharp and steel. Tim used to drag a mud hole on my ass when I first started.
Mm-hmm.
So, but me and Tim was talking. I came back from college and I was playing semi-pro, and I was telling him like, man, at the time Kimball Slice was doing good, and he just
Right.
started doing that backyard brawl. And I remember talking to him, and I was like, man, I'm thinking about getting into this fight, man. I was like, I'm watching people who are wrestling in college and stuff like that. They on TV making money and they doing all this. And I just started saying to myself, like, I'm thinking about doing that. And it was his ass. He told me, he said, man, them white boys gonna beat your ass. You decide to do it. Excuse my
You
language.
pulled your
I
card,
cuss
huh?
him like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he said
That's all
they're
right.
gonna beat, and I was just like, you
Yeah.
know what? I was like, you got me messed up, dude. You know what I'm saying? So and then he was like, I tell you what, You take one fight. You take one fight, you do good, you win. So I'm like, I'll throw you $1,000. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Next thing you know, 2 weeks later, I was in the cage at light heavyweight.
Yeah, after just 2 weeks. Yeah, but let me ask you this. If you were talking to
How I
somebody.
got it, my bad. I'm sorry. I didn't finish
No,
up
no.
talking about Chris Irwin. So
Okay.
yeah. So Chris Irwin, I went online, I was looking up, I was trying to find a gym and stuff like that to train out of. And I ran into this dude, Chris Irwin, that had an ad out there or whatever, and I reached out to him. When I reached out to him, he had me meet him at the casino. I met him at the casino when we met. He sat down with me and stuff like that. So he asked me, why do I want to fight? And I gave him all of this stuff about, how I think I could be good and all that stuff. Man, he said, cut the shit. This is exactly what he said. He said, cut the shit, man. He was like, seriously, why do you want to fight? Most guys don't go pro. They don't make money. They don't this, that. You know why? I just told him, I said, listen, man, I just don't want to go back to the streets. I don't want to, at the time I had just got locked. I just got out of prison for driving on revoked license. Yeah, I went to prison. He sent my ass to prison for driving on revoked license. And I had just got out. Yeah, and I had just got out. And I was like, jobs was always in and out, and going overseas. And I just was like, you know what? I'm tired of putting, my life, my kids' life in the economy's hands, forget it. I'm going to do it myself, so I decided when I made that decision, I fully committed to that decision, so whether good, bad, I was all the way committed. And anything I commit to, everybody knows, it usually turns out pretty good, so.
Okay.
That's how I got it. That's how I really got into fighting. Chris Irwin gave me the option. He gave me the platform. He opened up the doors for me,
Yeah, and then you just basically started training a little bit, and then like you say, you started taking a couple of amateur fights, right?
The first day of the first time training, I didn't train in the MMA gym. He called me over to his house and was like, "Yo, the guys are meeting here. We got mats down in the basement. Come on through and show us what you got." And I went over there, and they had a lot of guys in the basement. Some of them I'm still friends with to this day, man. And they had their instructors, Paul Sharp and Dave Sharp. Paul Sharp was a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he's an officer, but he also had an amateur background, something like that. And Dave also. So I decided, so I would get there. I was able to take down anybody with no problem. I would take down anybody, but I kept getting caught in a triangle. And I didn't know what to do. I kept trying to muscle out of it and stuff like that. But that's how it all started. It started in the basement.
Yeah, and that's because you had a wrestling background. You come from an amateur wrestling background, so it took a little bit of time to develop those other skills. But you also was good with your hands. If you had to give someone advice on the best type of base for getting involved in MMA, what would you say? Wrestling, 100%.
Wrestling.
Yeah, okay.
Wrestling. No,
that's
think
the
about
first thing.
Wrestling, after if you in a street fight, after 2 minutes, people tired and they grabbing each other. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, in a fight, you dictate where, in mixed martial arts, if you're a wrestler, you really dictate where the fight goes. If I want to keep it standing, then all I got to do is stuff whatever you bring to me far as on the wrestling tip of it. But if I want to, if I'm getting pieced up standing, I can just put you on your back and you like a fish out of water now. You know what I'm saying? And that's where my expertise is at. And wrestlers make good in jiu-jitsu too, because it's the leverage game that we used to being able to cut off the anatomy with limbs here, this, that. So it automatically transfer over into it actually. So it makes everything much easier being a wrestler. So if you get into mixed martial arts, I would tell anybody, bro, wrestling. If you're young right now, you got the chance to get on a high school wrestling team, or you get the chance to get in some kind of grade wrestling program or a middle school program, wrestling program, man, wrestling. And if you don't use it for mixed martial arts, you can always use it as self-defense when someone bigger trying to attack you. So I would tell women, kids, guys, everybody to at least learn it.
Yeah, and the special thing about wrestling is it goes all the way into before high school. You can wrestle before high school. You can
start anytime, as soon as you start walking.
Yeah, so by the time you 18,
in 8th grade.
Yeah, some folks by the time they're 18, they've been wrestling 12, 13 years.
Legends, bro.
And that means you'll come into the sport already at the top of your game, and just you have to pick up other things.
Yeah.
But let me ask you that.
That's why
Let
Gable
me ask you
Stevenson
that.
doing good.
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to ask you. Do you think that MMA, now, I mean, it might be too young, don't get me wrong, or maybe they should have like, protective gear or something, but do you think MMA should be like a college and Olympic sport?
MMA, how would that work though? Because like, here's the thing: if you did that, right? Here's the thing: if
Mm-hmm.
you did that, because in how brutal the sport is, they say it's like equivalent to being in a car crash. So
Okay.
if you did this, you would have to go back to the Horace Gracie days where people are fighting so many fights in one day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And most people get injuries and this and that. How do you really determine? You know,
So, why I asked, because boxing has an Olympic,
yeah,
they have boxing in the Olympics, and you can
yeah.
also do Golden Gloves and the amateurs, and I just don't see the correlation to why you have to be a full grown adult before you start engaging in mixed martial arts, because even like jujitsu, they have
Actually, you don't.
jujitsu at a young age. Well, what do you got to be at least 16 before you can get a pro
I mean,
card, and then is that an Olympic sport?
so they have like smokers and they have like amateurs and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I don't know what the criteria. I think the criteria might be 18 too, though. I'm not as far as amateurs, but smokers, no.
yeah.
Yeah, that is a good question. But then again, you
Because
don't want
like
to
Olympics,
you don't
right?
want to have an 11, 12-year out there getting her arm broke and she got to go to school tomorrow or something like that.
But then,
You
like I
know?
said, they have jujitsu matches, and they have kid
Yeah,
jujitsu and stuff like
yeah, they
that.
do.
So and then that's what I was thinking. Like, so far as like an Olympic sport, where or even a college situation, because it's not
I know they
professional.
was
Obviously,
talking
you
about
have.
taking. I know they talking about taking it to the Olympics. So I know that they still talking about it. I don't know how
Yeah,
it's
that would
gonna
be a
work,
good thing.
but I know they talking
Well,
about it.
but if you have people coming up through a
That mean
college or an
that
Olympic
mean MMA
program.
come a long way if they talking about putting it in the Olympics.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the time they become pros, they'll be at the very top, almost everybody. But the thing I will say is a lot of people find a way to make money and to make livings by, becoming a, professional as soon as possible. So I guess I can see why some people might be against that. But so let me ask you this, because you're in one of the best gyms in the world. For guys, he wrestled through college and everything, and all of a sudden he has an interest in being a mixed martial artist. He lives in a place where there is no famous mixed martial artist, MMA gyms.
Mm.
What would be your advice to that person? Like, how would you say, hey man, I know you don't have a
You're right.
job.
You absolutely right about that because I went through that. I went through that
Yeah,
being out of Chicago. See, so
yeah,
you're absolutely right, and everybody can't afford to do what I was doing. I was getting on
yep,
2 trains and 2 buses every day just to get to training. And that's just
yeah,
because I was just desperate to get. What I'm saying, to make this work. But everybody don't have the resources or the time to be able to do that. And so honestly, that's one of the reasons why I'm gonna come back out to Chicago and open up a world-class MMA gym out there anyway. And
right,
I'm putting it directly in Harvey. So
yeah.
people don't have to go through that. But at the same time, I would say, if they're gonna take this, if they're gonna do that way, and if they have a hard time finding just an MMA gym, which this might cost a little bit, but I would say, go here for wrestling, go here for boxing, go here for this. And that's pretty much, to try to piece it all together. You do have Gilbert Arenas gym out towards that area out there in Orland and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But
Huh?
like you said, that's more of a base wrestling MMA gym and stuff like
Yeah.
that. You well rounded and stuff like that. I would
And
say
let me
be a
ask you this.
student, be a student, be a student. Why?
Okay.
Be a student.
So let me ask
If
you
you
this
really,
though.
yeah.
If you like I said, you might come from a jujitsu background or whatever, a boxing background, and you wanted to get involved in MMA. It's your whole dream to do that, right? Do you
Learn
think that
wrestling.
person, if they're super serious, they have to be willing to sacrifice and actually do what you did and get up and just move to where that opportunity
It's
is?
absolutely no doubt. You have no choice. If you're not willing to bet on yourself in this fight
Mm-hmm.
game, you dead out here in the fight game. You have to
Yeah.
believe that you can compete and do it, and you have to be willing to go through the suffering part of it too. And that might cost you to have to leave and travel sometimes. If you watch a lot of fighters that's training in other spots ain't naturally from that area. You know, a
Yeah.
lot of these guys are from different walks of parks and stuff like
Little
that.
nowhere
So
Iowa or something.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you need to go where the lions are at, and you need to start slaying. You have no choice, so you have to move. And then for expertise, better like if you, I never seen anything grow that stays in a box. Nothing. I've
Yeah.
never seen
Yeah.
anything. And so, in order if you gonna take this serious, this mixed martial arts serious and stuff like that, you have to be able to go to where there's no roads that lead you, and you got to basically be able to leave one. But you have to be willing to make that step. You're gonna have to get uncomfortable. You got to get away from your
Yeah.
family. You're gonna have to get away from the things you're used to. You got to get it out of the bad habits. So if you're serious about it, it's hell. It's torment. It ain't as cute as people think it is. They watch it on
Yeah.
TV and they say to themselves, "Oh man, and that kick is not that hard. Why this person didn't move out the way?" Do you not know how skilled and how fast and how hard these things come? You know, it might look on TV like it's not that bad, but if it ain't that bad, why this dude knocked out? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? It's bad, and so you got to condition your shins, which means that you have to break your shins up and build calcium in it, which means you got to break the bones up in the shin, kicking the bags hard as hell constantly. You have to be able to get your sprawl game on point. You have to work cage work. You have to learn every discipline from Muay Thai to wrestling to jiu-jitsu, so you can see the elbows coming, so you can see the shots coming, so you can see the kicks coming. So you have to, you know, if you really want to take it serious, you're gonna go where you can get the best help. A lot of people are trying to train themselves these days, and that's a problem. You need to be around people who's clearly not only that's involved in the game, but that's just as dedicated as you in a sport to basically excel at this. Because you know, still sharp and still in every way. I can't go to a ballerina and ask him to teach me how to fight. He's gonna be able to teach me ballerina. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna know. So, you know, you gotta get uncomfortable. Sometimes we outgrow our environment too. And that's one of the reasons why, you know, because you'll only be so good, but only on the regional scale in your environment. Sometimes you have to get up and go to where they're tougher, where you're gonna get an ass whooping here or there.
What
And
an
so you can get
opportunity
back.
is, right?
Yeah, what an opportunity is, you know.
Yeah, you got to go to where the lions are.
Well,
You
I
can't
mean,
just stay in your own backyard.
When I left Chicago, I had over 26 fights, 26 amateur
Yeah.
fights. And I was like, I was fighting like twice in a month, you know, here, there. I was fighting a lot. And I was like, there's no, and
Spinning your
I'm watching,
wheels.
yeah, and I'm turning on the TV and I'm seeing people I'm fighting. And then I'm realizing that, yo, even guys that come in town, they're requesting to personally work with me and train with me to get ready for their fights and stuff like that. And everybody asks me the same question. Why are you not pro? Why are you not pro? You should be pro. And I realized that when I tried to turn pro in Chicago, you know, a lot of the promoters, they were trying to like, you know, blacklist me. I put me on the shelf. They were trying to keep me in the amateurs. They wanted me to fight for belts and this and that. And I'm looking at it like, you know, we play a deadly game of consequence. You was at the hospital with me when my eye was wide open. You know what I'm saying? So we play
Yeah.
a game where you can't be doing this for free. You can't be, you know, so a lot of the amateurs, they'll try to tell you because they want the ticket sales. So once you learn the game, you realize that they don't really care about your health or your well-being. They only care
No.
about ticket sales that you will draw and you can, you know, sell out the place or whatever. Then you start thinking about other things. And then when you got family and stuff like that, you don't take that chance to fight for free. You don't, you know, it's not even worth it.
Absolutely.
So when
So
I
let's
left,
talk about how hard it is, though, because now if a person he wants to join the gym that he's chosen, and he sees that this is a really good gym, but he's going to have to travel a few hundred or even sometimes a couple thousand miles to get there. One of the main issues, one of the biggest things it seems like that stops people from doing that is the ability to feed themselves. So a lot of guys have to, try and set up some sort of employment, or they'll go off and
you
do
got,
maybe
yeah, that's a
security
part of
work.
it.
That's
It's all
the
a part
hard
of it.
part of it, I think. And
That's a
then
part of it.
do you have to like you just join a gym, or do you have to
And
show that you can actually be a part of that gym? Like, do you have to, I'm not saying audition or
if you in
anything,
the
but
higher class gyms, usually they don't usually like a
just
lot of
take
the big
anybody off the
gyms.
streets. Hmm.
Yeah, you know, they usually don't. You got to be worth them
Yeah.
working with. Usually,
So having
ideally,
that amateur background will help, though, huh?
yeah, if you come in an amateur
Okay.
background and you can compete and stuff like that, you can help make the gym a little bit better, and they know that, then it's a lot easier. But then you can
They can see
still
your
do it and
talent.
develop. You can still do it
Yeah.
and develop into a fighter. And I've seen that happen too, where guys that
Mm-hmm.
just decided they wanted to just try it with no skills,
Mm-hmm.
and then in a short period of time, you looking up and they beating up pros. I've seen that
Yeah,
happen too.
absolutely.
Don't happen that often, but I've seen it happen. So your
So
commitment got to be there.
what's the main type of job that you think a lot of fighters when they come from way out of town or whatever, do they take anything that's
You got
available?
to take anything that's gonna pay. I mean, listen,
Right.
I've done everything from security to dishwasher. You
Mm.
know, it don't matter. That whatever it takes, whatever. And see, that's the thing about it. People think it's just the fighting, the training, this and that. No, you got to pay where you live. You got to pay for food. You got to pay for this, that, and you got to put at least 8 to 10 hours, whatever you putting in a day at a job, and then find time for mixed martial arts too. Because, like I said, all of it, it's not as cheap as people think to be a mixed martial arts. You actually,
Yeah.
everything costs. Everything
Yeah.
costs, man. And mixed martial, it's actually one of the most expensive damn sports to actually do full time. So most people, if you don't have sponsors and people like that to help you out, most
Yeah.
people won't get there. Some of the best talents won't get there because it's grueling, and if you can't keep up with that part of it, then that I can see people falling by the wayside with this too sometimes.
Absolutely. It's a process in order to actually get to the point where you could become successful in doing what you're doing. But a lot of guys, like I was saying, they'll come in and they'll try to find something. How hard is it to train full time and work a full time job? Like, is that extraordinarily hard? Do you have to
Hell,
dedicate,
way hard,
so
bro.
many hours?
Way hard,
Yeah.
man. Way.
Yeah,
Let
that's
me
what I
tell you. So
figured.
I'll give y'all a little secret about me in this fight game. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
I'll give y'all a little secret about me in this fight game, chasing this fight game. One thing about me is that I've been through every single fucking thing while I'm fighting and shit, even homelessness. You know what I'm saying? Even homelessness at one point, and it comes. If you're not willing to sacrifice your life, like it says, into this thing full time, there's absolutely no way you're gonna make it in the fight game. You
Yeah.
might make it as far as in the good regional scales and stuff, but when you step up and you're fighting global, you're fighting all over, and you're fighting different caliber fighters and stuff, that takes everything, all you got and everything. It takes, because this guy's getting ready the same way, and he's not gonna spare no expenses. He's not gonna leave no stone unturned. So your commitment with everything, far as like your diets, your this, your everything, your past sessions with your coaches, your setups with your privates and stuff like that. All of that got to be put together and stuff like that. And you got to be, and you can't waste people's time in it either. So a lot of people don't understand. You might be tired from a job, and if you got a
Yeah.
session with your coach, with Coach Greg Jackson or with Mike Winklejohn, something like that, with one of those coaches, if you have a session with them lined up, or with one of your coaches, whatever, a top tier coach, don't matter if you don't feel like it or you don't feel good, you need to be there and be there on time, because they're
Yeah.
putting just as much into you as you're putting into it too. Because if you got a fight coming up, everybody got to be on board. Everything got to be
Yeah.
on board. You got to know codes. If they speaking and they ask you for stuff, you got to be able to know that. That takes time. It takes
Yeah.
discipline. It takes, much
Let
more
me ask you
than.
this. Let me ask you this. Can a person, in your personal opinion, like say for instance, you have dreams of, becoming a pro, you wanna become a champion, you wanna make a lot of money in this thing, that's your dream or whatever, right? Do you think a person can get to that point if they get to one of the more famous gyms, and they become a part of that team, and they just accumulate a very large win record? Do you think they can get there by just winning fights, or do they have to have a certain amount of politics involved?
Nowadays, they adding the politics. Far as you don't have to be in a prestigious MMA gym to be successful. You could be in a hole in the wall too. Some of the hole in the wall gyms are some of the best, because all they have time for is discipline with you and work with you directly. So
Okay.
what does matter though is that you're putting in that time and the hours and stuff in the gym. That's what matters. How much you're disciplined. And if you know you're weak in a certain area, you have to, you got to face your fears and you got to fix it. And a lot of people, like I've seen people come all the way out here to this gym, right, and don't do good. And that's because they was fighting on the regional scales where everybody was just patting them on the back and they didn't have to, and the skies wasn't the limit for them. You know what I'm saying? It was kind of like this is the ceiling and this is the top tier guy. But when you step outside of that, you realize there's a whole nother element to it. You know, I could even say that myself from even when I started out there in Chicago. And then when I came out here, just the altitude alone was an adjustment. I was like, holy shit, couldn't breathe, you know? So I would say, as far as the politics go, it helps. It helps with the game. But if you're a good fighter and stuff like that, and the opportunity will come. You just got to be ready for it when the time does come. You just got to, keep winning. But I would say you can get there fast. I would say that's all a part of the game. Like, your name is everything. So what you put behind your name is different. You know what I'm saying? And with me, I got the Team Hawk thing. So I got my own little fan base, crowd type of thing with it. So marketing yourself is important.
Well, what's more important?
Game. And everything.
Absolutely. I believe that too. So let me ask you this. Is it more important to have, like, say, for instance, a guy's 30-0, but nobody knows who he is? But he's 30-0, so he's probably won a belt or two. Is it more important to have attention in mixed martial arts, or is it more important to go off your record?
If a guy is 30-0 in mixed martial arts, if a guy is 30-0 in mixed martial arts, people gonna know who he is. They gonna know who he is. They gonna know who he is. If you a professional with 30-0, because everybody gonna be dodging for you to put that one next to it. So everybody gonna know who you is. That's a good win on the record. So.
And some people don't have a personality, so they don't have the ability to attract attention sometimes, and they'll need it. But they might be that type of guy where, you know what, I'm gonna win this situation. He's gonna win, but he's not.
Even if you don't have that person, even if you don't have that personality, I would say like this. Mm-hmm. Even if you don't have that personality to basically do, or you're not into all of that, I would say be ready to put together some really good promos. Because if you put together some really good promos where people seeing you grinding, working and stuff like that, fighters, they pay attention to that, promoters pay attention to that, and they want to see what you can. Prime example,
right.
Mike Tyson, when he was like 50-some years old, when he came out with that session with the mitts on the mitts, and people was looking how dynamic, how explosive he was, how he looked like his old self. Everybody wanted to see him fight again, right out there, because it gave him flashbacks of what he was and stuff like that. So I would say, you would still be marketing yourself though if you put out a promo. So if you're not the type to talk, then just put out promos. Put out promos so people can see you.
Right, you still promoting yourself, but it seems like now you have guys trying to be more extreme and more outrageous to bring attention to themselves. You'll see guys doing crazy stuff.
We just had some shit like that at our fucking gym. We just had some
Yeah.
shit like that at our gym, man. And it's to each his own. It's like this, man. Whatever, I feel like this. I don't care how you get there. I just care that you get there. And so if
Right.
it takes for you to have to go through that bull crap or to do that, my thing is that if you're not happy about it though, and you're doing the shit, don't do it, because that'll be exposed. People will see the line, the thin line, you know what I'm saying? So the threatening. So the thing is, it's like, if it's not something that you're into, then I would say don't. But if you don't mind talking shit, if you a person that's all about it and stuff like that, then do it, you know what I'm saying? And be willing to, you know what I'm saying? But you
It's
better
a calculation thing. Mhm.
Yeah. So
let me ask you this, bro. You come across a lot of people in general, and you've seen a lot of different people, train with a lot of different people. The average person that comes in front of you, do you look at them and you see a dreamer, or do you see gladiators when you look back at them? The vast majority of them. Do you look at them and say, it's not for him? Or do you say, if you made it to this point, you already him?
Well, I give a certain amount of respect to anyone who got the nerves to put on the gloves and step in the cage. I don't care if you're 0-30. If you got the nuts to go out there and fight, because it's a game of inches in MMA. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We mathematics, we technicians in there, everything, leverage this, that, you name it. So anything can happen anytime in that cage. If you got 2 hands, 2 legs, I got 2 hands, 2 legs, anything can happen. So I respect you and salute you all for just stepping there. That's one. But far as me calling people me saying that there's a lot of people that's looking like substance. That's not really fighters. And so they use the
Yeah.
game for the politics of the game to say, hey, look at me, I'm a fighter. They take a picture next to a bag, or they got something with them in sparring or doing some other stuff. But really, when it's time to fight, they're not fighting, or they're fighting tomato cans on purpose. You know what I'm
You know
saying?
why I asked that?
That's
Because
not the
I've
same.
been with you. I've been with you before. I remember going with you to a weigh-in before, and you were supposed to fight a guy, and then you went in, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm not fighting you." I was like,
I've had
I said,
that a lot of look. And look, you want
"What
to
you
see what's
show
so
up
crazy?
for?"
Look, I've seen that a lot, right? Look, even right here, here's one of my articles, right? Let me show you. I'm trying to see if I
Mhm.
can turn this phone. If I can find a way to turn this phone around.
You
Let me
might
see.
be able to. You might not. I would just go easy on it for a second, but because
No,
I
no,
don't
no.
want
But
to
here,
accidentally
but
end
prime
it. Yeah, you can
example, I'm
just
gonna
turn
just
the
turn it
camera.
like this. So
Mm-hmm.
as you see this, right? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So Maurice took the cage and was interviewed about the disappointment of not fighting. He said that to call yourself a professional, you need to show up whether you're on weight or not. Things like this give
Right.
the sport an unneeded black eye. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
absolutely.
And
Because that
I've had
happens.
that happen numerous times. And when
Yeah, I
you a
remember.
scary fighter and you're a disciplined fighter, that's gonna
Mm-hmm.
happen. And I
Yeah.
realized, like I said, that's what me go back to me explaining to you. You don't call everybody not in this fight game the same way, because a lot of these guys, they like the idea of being able to say, oh, I'm a fighter and stuff like that. But when it's time to go to war, they don't clock in on that because, you know, they didn't cross their T's, dot their I's. They know they're not ready. There's some type of, they find an out. They try to find an out somehow, somewhere. Real fighters never find an out. We don't care if we injured. In fact, I've been fighting with a broke back for years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So a real fighter that's really into that, you know what I'm saying? You could tell a difference. You don't, right
Yeah.
away you could tell those type of fighters. But it's camouflaged with a lot of look-alike substance. So there's so
Okay.
many guys out here, like in our gym. I would say a good 30%. A good 30% I would say is about that. But then I would say the other 70% are lookalike substance. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Guys that's really not, you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
really there like that. You
Yeah.
know,
The,
so
they really have it in them. Now, let me, because, okay, that's an interesting thing because you said, you wouldn't care if a guy was 0-30. What advice do you give? Because you work corners. What advice do you give when you see a guy on a losing streak? And it's like no matter what he does, he's been on a 6, 7, 8 fight losing streak, and he's still a young guy, and there's just something missing. What advice do you get that guy? Do you say to him, "Hey, look, maybe it's just not you," or do you sit there and you try to systematically work out what the issue might be?
if he's compassionate about it, then I'm never gonna say it's not him. Because anything, as long as you got breath in your body, you can change the narrative. So
Right.
I would never say it, but if it's certain like a small thing, I would tell him like be willing to accept criticism, but also, you know what I'm saying, trust the process. Most of these guys that I've seen that have lost and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of them go
Yeah.
off script. They don't trust the process of the training camp. You have a training camp for a reason, right? And so if I'm breaking
Yeah.
down film of my guy and I see that this is what he specializes in and what he does and stuff, and we all mix martial arts, it can always change. The bad thing I got,
Mm-hmm.
the number one thing I got going on in my head, okay, where's my threats at though? Because I know I'm just as much as a threat as he is, whatever skill set he's at. So I got to
Mm-hmm.
find a way to turn this fight into my fight. So to me, my thing is that when my training camp, when I'm getting ready, I'm finding people similar to that style that's working, that's doing, that's going to give me that look. And from now on, now I can play around and this and that and get the, that's what training is for. Training is for
Yeah.
being able to catch these things and be there. And you see it a lot in the fights. I'll give you a prime example. That Jorge Masvidal and Ben Askren fight. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Everybody
That was
probably
over
thought
quick.
Jorge was going to get crushed. But guess what?
That was
Jorge
over
already
quick.
know he's going to
Mm-hmm.
shoot. He wants to shoot. He's not confident in standing. So when he shoot, I'm just throwing the knee. But when he threw it, also, it was perfect timing. He automatically knew he was going to go right there. So he had to place the knee right where the hell was at. People don't know that
Yeah.
skill set and preparation. You know how many
Yeah,
times
it's a
he's
short
probably
night.
practiced that? You know
Yeah,
what I'm
it's a
saying?
short night. Let me ask you this then. Okay, like you said, the preparation was one of the main things. What would you say in the training camp is the most important part? Would you say it's the nutrition, the sparring, working on technique, conditioning? What's the biggest thing that you feel like average fighters or the average fighter has to master before he can have a good training camp?
Bro, going when you don't want to go.
Yeah,
That's
the
half the
discipline
that's the
part.
yeah, that it's so many times that you could easily say, yo, my ankle's still messed up, this, that, and you have to still be willing to say, take the ankle up and train around the ankle. Okay, I broke a
Yeah.
finger. Okay, let's take these fingers together and let's work on the left today. We'll focus on throwing
Okay.
all the left shots, this, that. Oh, you know, you have to be able to, because here's the thing, the minute you sit back and get comfortable and get complacent, there's a guy out there that's still training with his situation that's moving past you and shit like that. So
Yeah.
understanding that you got to say to yourself, you remember when I was out there in Chicago, people saw me running
Mm-hmm.
in the blizzard. You know what I'm saying? I'm
Yeah.
out here running in blizzard, storms, it don't matter. I got to still do it, you know, because I understand that I can't sit back and waste the time. And so, yeah, I would say the discipline, that covers all grounds. You know what I'm saying? The
Yeah.
discipline covers all grounds. That covers the diet. That covers this. That covers everything. So it's not one specific thing. It's the discipline. You know what I mean? Put it like this.
Okay.
Somebody can be extremely talented. The next Mike Tyson, right? Knocking out
Right.
all the people on the regional scales and everything. But then he get in there with a guy that he's beating the crap out of, but he can't knock out, and then he get tired.
Yeah.
And then you see the
So
roles
it's
switch.
conditioning.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
The roles switch. So you can stay in a fight longer just because you endured more in training camp, because you was willing to go
Okay.
past the point of a bit.
So a good training camp is hitting all cylinders basically. You gotta have discipline first, and then with
Yeah,
discipline you can
without
hit
discipline, you
everything.
can't do nothing. You can't do
Yeah,
nothing
you
in
can
the
hit.
fight game without
Yeah.
that.
And if you got extreme discipline, you can work on all cylinders, every aspect of it. Hey, let me ask you this. I was just listening to that thing that Adrian Broner was talking about, and I thought about that. So far as like fighters having vices, right? Like he said, man, 98% of them are, drinking alcohol. Like that's their big thing is, a lot of them get drunk. I listened to Errol Spence talk about how drinking affected his boxing. And you just see that in general. A lot of guys that you don't even realize. Why do you think that heavy drinking, or heavy drinking is a big part of combat sports in general? Why is it?
I
Even when I was
I
listening
think a
to
lot of people
like
are
Sugar
trying
Ray
to
Leonard
numb.
talked about
Yeah,
that too.
yeah, I think a
Hmm.
lot of them are trying to numb and feel alive again. Because when you in a fight camp and stuff like that, bro, your mind is
Hmm.
militant normally on a regular basis. You know what I'm saying? You're doing stuff
Hmm.
you don't want to do sometimes because you get tired and your body, your biggest fight is within your head, right? So the drinking sometimes
Hmm.
become a little woosah to get away. And then sometimes it's just the fact of a lot of these fighters are miserable. So a lot of them are
Yeah.
drinking out of misery. So they have different reasons of whys or what. I know when I was at one point, I was still fighting and shit at the top level, and I was a bad alcoholic, really
Hmm.
bad alcoholic. And I realized that, you know what I'm saying, the only time I would stop drinking was when I had a fight coming up. When I had a fight
Yeah.
coming up or I had some sign on the dotted line, then I put away the drink. But then as soon as the fight is over with, I'll be right back to drinking, right? And I
Hmm.
realized that my personal reason, I was trying to hide and get away from fucking things in life. And so a
Yeah.
lot of these fighters, they do that. They're not happy with themselves. In fact, I just saw some stuff with my old teammate Andre Arlovsky, and he was
Hmm.
talking about drinking the same thing. He was pouring down all these drinks and throwing the cigarettes away. And he was saying, pretty much he drank because it was a habit. And I mean, he didn't like himself and all of that stuff. And
Yeah.
sometimes you never get satisfied in a fight game. It's not like what people think sometimes. The loneliest sport in the world is fighting. People don't understand it.
Yeah.
You lose, no one's there for you. You win, everybody say they there for you temporarily, but let you go through one struggle. You know what I'm saying? You in it by
Yeah.
yourself, you realize you fighting again. So a lot of these fighters live miserable lives. You know what I'm saying? I fought Melvin Gillard.
And it's legal.
And I fought
And it's
Melvin
legal.
Gillard, and Melvin Gillard was one of the best fighters in the world at one point.
Yeah.
But his discipline fell off so much because of the fact being that he let the outside and influential and the drinking and all of that stuff. And that can happen. You could easily get caught up in that what they call a limelight. Ain't no lime
Yeah.
in it.
Right.
So
So let me ask you this, then. Do you think marijuana should be legal in combat sports in general?
yes, it is. It is actually. But I
Well, okay, so they don't still pop dirty for marijuana because
not for
they must have
marijuana,
changed that.
no. Only in certain spots
Okay.
that there's not allowed, like Texas. If you smoke
Okay.
marijuana in Texas, then of course you get popped. But if you in spots where it's legal to smoke and stuff like that, That's not. And
Mm-hmm.
I spoke to my nutritionist, and she even said like it's actually better for the body. So a lot
Yeah,
of people don't.
absolutely.
Yeah. So and I realized that too. Sometimes I zone out in my training. Sometimes I be,
Yeah.
so
It
I
has
don't.
medicinal products,
And it's a
prospects.
upper.
It,
And
right,
it's a
right.
upper.
Well,
It's
not
not a
only
liquor. It's a depressant.
right. Well, as CBD is, people been doing that for a long time. But even outside of that, it's not something that's gonna give you a competitive edge. You know what I mean?
No,
I
it's not.
remember listening to
It's gonna
Lawrence
hurt you
Taylor.
worse. Your organs,
r-
your
Right.
kidney.
But I remember listening to Lawrence Taylor talk about yeah, here's go smoke a 8 ball of cocaine before he went on the field. And I thought to myself, that's probably why he was out there acting like that. That's cheating. You smoke an 8 ball of crack right before you hit the field, you're gonna be
Like I
supercharged
don't
up.
feel
You
nothing.
running.
Like I don't
Yeah, he
feel
don't feel nothing.
nothing.
No, nothing. Yeah, he's like a superhero out there. But marijuana doesn't do that to a person. It's gonna bring you actual benefits.
I
So,
mean,
and it's
look at
not gonna
Nate
give you a
Diaz.
competitive advantage over anybody else. You know what I
Look
mean?
at Nick and Nate Diaz. You know what I'm saying? Them
Yeah,
brothers. They tell
absolutely.
you a lot.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. A lot of people, and it helped with people who had issues with alcohol. They
In
trying to
fact,
stop alcohol.
one of the best martial arts in the world was the biggest cannabis user in the world. Again, who
Uh
was he?
huh.
Bruce
I don't
Lee.
know who. Bruce Lee.
Bruce
I did
Lee.
not know that.
Yeah,
That makes
Bruce Lee
sense.
was one of the biggest fucking cannibal.
They
He
used to
smoked
roll a
all
doobie,
the time.
huh?
Yeah, he used to smoke. Oh, go look it up,
They don't
Bruce
want to
Lee,
tell
man.
you about that part. Mm-hmm.
Nah, they talk about the discipline and how his physique look and all that.
Yeah.
Man, you got to be high to see these things.
Hey, have you ever been fighting a guy and you said to yourself in the middle, this guy's on steroids or this guy's
Oh
on
yeah, I've
PEDs
had a
or
few of those. I had a few of
yeah,
those
yeah,
guys
yeah.
that you clearly could tell was on steroids, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so how do you
That
okay, so how do you deal with that if you think a guy's you've been fighting a guy, you like, man, this guy's abnormally strong. Do you say after a fight, yeah, I think this guy should be, tested or something like
they
that, or do
don't
you
the
just
commission usually tests people any fucking way, usually. So,
okay.
um, but there is some shows that they get away with it, the commission don't test. So there is some show like that too. So, it's just a pitch of what roll of the dice really with that, because you don't know it. And if it is, you could say, hey, I think this dude, I want to get him tested with steroids. If they don't do their job in that whatever,
Right.
district they're in, whatever promotion you fighting, and you just gonna be fighting someone with steroids that was on steroids.
How important do you think having a social media following is for a fighter? Is it because we've seen people
It's
like
it's way important nowadays, because
uh-huh.
it's so many people getting into it now, and
Yeah.
so the competition. It's not even the competition. It's the the media presence. It's
Right.
very important. In fact, UFC will not take certain fighters, no matter how good they is, unless they have a social media presence. So
That makes sense.
you know what I'm saying? And I realized that. For years. They liked me. I spoke to Sean Shelby a few times, the matchmaker for the UFC, and they don't even flew people
Yeah.
out to see. And I realized the politics in the game where he's not too marketable. He's not too marketable.
Yeah.
And for me,
Yeah.
I
It's about
feel
money.
like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, and I feel like for me, it's to each his own. But I can't be
Mhm.
something I'm not. So don't ask, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna
Yeah.
that's just me, period. So I can get it from all of, you know what I'm saying, the grind that I'm willing to go through. I'll find the hard route. I don't care. I'm used to it. But my thing is, it's like, it's important. If you out here and you do have to get your social media presence up there, but make sure it's organic.
Right.
None of this all made up bull crap stuff that you don't really believe or know, or this or that, or
When the
you
lights
know,
come on, now all of a sudden you change
yeah,
your personality
no, be the fucking guy that you said you were, or you are.
all of the time.
So yeah, all the time and stuff. Don't confuse people, but I understand that people like people to be clowns, man. So
Right. Let me ask you
it's
this then.
important.
You've been a corner man and you've coached people. What makes an effective coach? What makes an effective guy? How are you? What do you have to possess in order to walk somebody to the ring and give them good counseling to lead them to victory in a fight?
I mean, my thing is, what I tell all my fighters, no matter what, is to trust the process. Trust the process, bro. Trust what you've done in your training. Trust that stuff, right? But also, what makes a fighter really good while he's in there, he's got to be able to listen throughout, because the crowd is going, everything, they tone him out. Tone them out, and my voice should pierce through the crowd. All you should hear is certain things that I'm saying out here. So listen to your corner, because it's like a remote control in the video game. I could see what's out there and what's not. So the
Right.
communications with the coach and the fighters gotta be there, and you know, that's very, very important. Cause I'm not gonna
Right.
just tell you throw a 1-2. He knows the 1-2 coming. Motherfucker, he's gonna counter
Right.
it, and it's gonna be lights out. So when my code and
Absolutely.
I speak to you, I might say something that sounds like Spanish, but you don't know what it is because you studied the spreadsheet, you've seen it in sparring. When you sparring, you heard me call it out, call this, call that out. So it should be in the back of your head, just installed. You should already know it. So you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's very important. And as a coach, don't be too damn basic. As a coach,
Yeah.
there's like, well, I realize that when I go to a lot of the fights where there's a fighter that's fighting at a lower class, and I'm listening to the coaching and stuff, and I'm like, they lucky that guy ain't fighting me, because
Yeah.
you talk to him and say these things, but when you fight the upper echelon fighter, you don't know what their corner man is saying. It sounds like Spanish. And I realized
Okay.
that too, because I'm standing there with a lot of these fighters and stuff, and it's like that. Even when my coach is talking to me, they don't understand what my coach is saying. You know what I'm saying? But I
Yeah.
know clearly what he's saying.
You
You
got
know?
some coaches in the corner like 1-3.
Yeah.
It's like they
No,
telling you
don't.
the old player, right? Yeah.
Nah, man. I'm like,
All right. Well, let me ask you
text.
this. Hey, and this is gonna be the last thing I ask you too. Now, you know, you a family man. You recently got married not too long ago. How
Yes,
do
sir.
you cut that off? How do you separate the fighter from the family man? Like I've spoken to
You're
people
not
who
gonna
had
bring your
jobs.
family. You never take your family to war with you. Never
Right.
take your
Right.
family to war with you, man. Separate war from the battlefield from home. You gotta separate
Okay.
the difference sometimes. A lot of the fighters, they do that stuff and then it become an emotional thing. And now you
Yeah.
messed up. You can't. And fighting, you have to take the emotions out of it. You have to basically be
Okay.
able to see things. You have to be solution based. You have to, you know, cause you playing a game of cat and mouse with deadly consequences. So you're not gonna sit
Yeah.
up there and be thinking about, I wonder what my wife doing. I hope she think I look good in here or all that stuff. Nah, bro. You have to be
Yeah.
ready to fight because you got another trained assassin across from you who's ready to do the
Yeah.
same thing. And here's the thing: if the refs don't pull us off you, we're not getting off. And so
Yeah.
you got to understand that, you know, your discipline has got to be at an all-time high. Any distractions, they got to leave. I see fighters do it all the time. They don't know how to separate the battlefield from home, and that's a lot of their
Yeah.
downfalls.
Yeah.
You
That's what I was thinking. Mm-hmm.
let me say, John Jones. I trained with John Jones. John Jones, the
Mm-hmm.
best fucking fighter in the world, right? You know what I'm saying? But you don't never see John Jones have his family all in the picture like that too much. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because he keeps them away from the battlefield. He's directly
Right.
focusing on what he needs to do to get ready for a fight. Some people leave their
Absolutely.
family to go train and fight. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So you
Mm-hmm.
got to
Mm-hmm.
separate that. You got to separate that. You got to see. Here's the thing about us fighters. Everybody have they reason for why they fight, right? But you know, most fighters fight for what's behind them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Most gladiators fight for what's behind them. So what's behind them? Their family, their community, things as such, and those are the things that drive them. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, the purpose alone speaks for himself. You don't have, you know what I mean? Now, most people that can't separate that, you know, there's some that probably are successful, but it's not many. It's not many
Yeah.
that does.
Some
Man,
folks
you
don't know
know.
how to leave it in the gym too, and you know that seems to be an issue. And it doesn't even have to be combat sports. Sometimes it could be, you know, you might be a police officer or
Yep,
you know, one of those people. You
yep. A
can't bring it
police
home with you
officer, a Marine.
sometimes.
Nope,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
absolutely right.
absolutely. Security guards, all of that stuff. I've known people who worked in prisons and said, "Hey, I had to leave that behind because I kept bringing it home." You know, I found myself being increasingly more irritant with my family, and it was making me into a bad person. And that's what I was wondering: is like, how do you go from, you know, adrenaline to throwing punches at another man's face and throwing kicks at a guy, and then you go home and you have to be dad. You know what I mean, or granddad or whatever. It's like now all of a sudden you got to be able to just cut it right off, huh?
Yeah, you gotta know how to say it's that switch. You know, most
Mm-hmm.
fighters have that kill switch. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
People don't know if they the most coolest, calmest, chillest person in the world. But at the same
Yeah.
time, when it's time to turn on that switch, you wouldn't recognize them. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so
Absolutely.
you have to have self control in your nature too, and that all
Right?
comes along with the discipline of being a fighter too, because you learn these things as along with this. You stepping away from the crowd, you stepping away from this, you step away from. You learn those disciplines too, man. You know you got to be able to have that if you're in this game. That goes along with that separating and stuff. I should nobody have to tell you certain things like, hey, man, you got to get up and go run sometimes, man. Your weight is overweight, or you got to do this, or you got those type of things you should know. Just like family, okay, I'm not gonna bring
Yeah.
my family to a robbery. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
it's
saying?
all a
Stuff
part of
like that.
discipline. Absolutely. That makes good sense. Hey, well, listen, I appreciate you, man. And
Man, I
this
appreciate
was
you,
this
brother,
was
man.
fun. Most definitely, most
It was fun.
definitely. I
We'll do it
think
again.
anybody
We're
who
gonna
watched
do it
this,
again. We'll do it again. Who knows, man? I also, you know what I'm saying, have a few other guys, you know what I'm saying, probably swing through to get on this
I
too.
can hook like 8 or 9 people into it at one time. So it's nothing, man. Like I
Oh
say,
yeah, let's do it
this
then,
was
man. Cause
okay.
I probably, but I think that this was pretty fun, man. You got some pretty interesting questions, man, and stuff like that, man.
Yeah,
I
absolutely. I
appreciate you
think
having me, man.
anybody who sees this will have a much better insight to what it actually takes to, if they want to enter into that lifestyle. And like I said, bro, I really appreciate you for taking some time out because I know you're busy with
No,
your food service and you're busy with the mjrise.org. Anybody who wants to see that can just go to mjrise.org and be a part of what you're doing. You're actively trying to make life better in your community out there in Albuquerque. And you probably going to end up saving quite a few young men who had to go through similar situations that you had to go through, but didn't have Carlita to help them. You know what I mean? So you can be
yeah.
that for a lot of people, and that's beautiful. And like I say, bro, I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, man, it's all love, bro. It's all love, man. I appreciate you too, man. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the time.
All right, bro. I'll talk to you.